I think there used to be an argument, Alexander Pope said, for forms of government, let fools contend. What is best administered is best. So I think we need good governance. and I think there are problems of good governance whether you are in a dictatorship or a democracy. And the ultimate test is actually representativeness. And I think where there is, you can have technically a good representative, a kind of, as you said earlier, I think, Republican, as you said. That is, there is a once in 4 years, there's a vote. But that doesn't actually constitute a democracy. There is a whole institutional basis of a free, of a press, sort of an, a judicial system, the separation of powers, the development of grassroots expression, institutions in villages, etc., for a country like India, which is the test of democracy. And ultimately, a very strong press is the best guardian, as it were, of strong representativeness on the part of any government.
You referred to Aristotle earlier. Winston Churchill once said that democracy is the worst form of government, except that the other forms are even worse. Having said that, let's go to Montclair for 2 questions from that end.
Hello, my question is, as several countries such as India and Japan are becoming world powers, what are your thoughts on expanding or reforming the Security Council to operate with these powerful member states in the 21st century? Thanks.
Second question.
Hello. The second question is, while the UN may be greatly involved in many issues, it always seems that they're limited in what they can really do because they can infringe upon nations' sovereignty. So what reforms in the UN could be made to allow for more policing of interstate conflicts without infringing upon the sovereignty?
2 questions. The first is the expansion of the Security Council for permanent membership, and the second is Article 2.7 of the Charter. What do we do with sovereignty?
Well, first one on reform. I think there is, I don't think you can today run away from the question that today there is a grave need for reform of the major institutions of the UN, or the major organs of the Charter, and perhaps that also includes the Security Council. The question really is how. And while it is perhaps, India and Japan are 2 cases of countries who are fairly influential in the world today, they do not have the status of a permanent member of the Security Council. And they have over the years been mounting considerable pressure for the reform of the UN Charter, or the amendment of the UN Charter to include, to expand the number of permanent members. But this has actually not yet been able to command the, let's say, sufficient support amongst the totality of the membership of the United Nations. There have been various formulas that have been brought about, and that is resulting in a bit of a logjam. I think it is still under discussion, and there is formal discussions now underway, and there is a facilitator. Afghanistan is a facilitator today of this particular of this group for the reform of the Security Council. And I think it will still take some time before there is a broader understanding of how this reform should take place. I don't think there's an argument regarding about the why of the reform, that there should be reform. I think there is, but the question is, how do you go about it? What kind of structure, what formula you need to have?
Can I ask you a supplementary there?
Yes.
Instead of talking about additional states as permanent members, why can't we reform the permanent membership to represent regions and not countries themselves? Why can't we divide the world, let's say, into 10 regions, and for each region we give a permanent seat and let the region choose which country in the region will occupy that seat?
Oh well, I think that is a rather novel way of doing it, but I don't know if that will actually meet with the support or the expectations of many of these regions. There may be countries which may not. For example, I can't think of East Asia coming to a consensus about who should represent East Asia as a permanent member of the Security Council, whether it should be Japan or China. I'm not sure that that will really, there will be a kind of settlement on amicable terms on that kind of a thing. There's bound to be controversy on that. The question of sovereignty of states, I think today, I don't think that we have moved beyond the question of state sovereignty. I think we still are bound by the principle, the Westphalian principle of nation states and the idea of the sovereign equality of states. But I don't know whether the question of sovereign equality really meets with the reality of the obviously states, some states are more equal than others, but more than that, I think there has been an evolution in the concept of sovereignty to the extent that there are limits to how national sovereignty can be expressed. There is a concept which has been recently brought out of responsible sovereignty, sovereignty as responsibility. It is not only sovereignty as authority, the power for a country or leadership of a country to do whatever it can, or whatever it wishes, but that sovereignty involves a certain responsibility towards your population. And where that responsibility is not addressed or it is not fulfilled, it's not discharged, where there have been large scale, let's say, violations of human rights through ethnic cleansing or genocide or war crimes perpetrated by one group, which is, even if it is legally constituted in a state, I think today the international community has increasingly come to recognize that that kind of sovereignty is not acceptable. So sovereignty involves responsibility.
Can I ask you whether the relationship between sovereignty, which is the nation state, as opposed to globalization, which is the world, because sovereignty is being breached by all global ideas, whether they are human rights or whether it is global warming or whatever, or ideas, the idea of democracy, the idea of women, the idea, these are very powerful ideas. How can you confine them within the borders of a state?
Absolutely. Three things. One is, of course, it's globalization is one of the important new developments which have actually impinged seriously on sovereignty. The second is the communications revolution. Today you may talk about sovereignty, but I think the email and the electronic media is going all over the place. There's no way in which you can even control that unless you were to sort of, in a sense, introduce very, very strongly intrusive controls, which will in fact defeat the purpose or even the efficiency of your functioning. And therefore you do see that increasingly in our globalized world, sovereignty is being subject to limitations. I was talking of something which is, in a sense, the norms, and in terms of the conceptual aspects. There are obviously these technical aspects, and even in the conceptual side, I think today, in terms of the environmental sustainability, in terms of the climate change, etc., whatever you may say of sovereignty, there are responsibilities that devolve upon individual nations to respect the, let's say, the ecological space of other countries.
But I think Montclair is to be congratulated for that question, because this problem of sovereignty is one of the fundamental problems of the United Nations, and we don't quite know how to come to terms with the fact that this institution is an institution of member states, meaning of sovereignty, and yet we have to deal with a globalizing world in which the forces of globalization are in fact even more powerful than the forces of sovereignty. Over to Vancouver in Canada for two questions from that end.
Hello, Ambassador. My name is Wook Yang from Windsor Secondary School here in Canada. My question today is, if all the permanent members of UN possess nuclear weapons, isn't it hypocritical for those 5 nations to stop countries from create nuclear weapons? I personally think it is just an excuse from the big boys to prevent the small nations from raising their voice. For example, of North Korea's attempt to make nuclear weapon, no, it shouldn't be allowed because it's dangerous. However, After Korean War in 1950s,